Welcome to the first Team Melon podcast. I'd like to start off by introducing myself and how our team came to be. So, Team Melon is a team which was assembled by game developers from all over the world. Together, we make indie games, and it was recently that we decided to start releasing podcasts. My name is Dan, and I've been making games for over 6 years, and I'm the director of Team Melon. It all started when I was talking in a voice chat in some Discord server and made a joke about assembling the biggest team ever for an ongoing game jam, which at the time was the Brackies Game Jam 2021.1. The reason for such a wild decision was to match the theme of the jam, which was announced as Stronger Together. I found and invited many talented people, and I thought it would be a great challenge to take on leading a large team for a week to make an awesome indie game. Our game turned out not bad, but we certainly didn't want to stop there. We continue to participate in game jams, and we are still developing games that we will share as we progress. So now I'd like others who are joining our podcast tonight to introduce themselves.
I'm PixelDev and I am the host of this podcast. I started game development around 10 years ago. That is about it.
My name is Fully Rented, and I'm a 14-year-old game developer from India. And that's about it.
Hello, I'm Genghis. I'm a game developer and programmer. I started developing games 4 years ago, and since then I'm trying my best to do.
Hey, I'm Genius Apple. I'm 15 years old. I'm a game developer, a book reader, and just I love everything in general. I'm just me.
Hey all, I'm Om and I'm the manager of Team Melon and also an artist here. I would have made games, but I unfortunately don't have a PC and expect that to become a running gag in the podcast. And that's it.
So, if you weren't a game developer, what would you be?
Well, before I made the decision to become a game developer, I really was wondering who I would be, and one of the things that I wanted to become was an engineer of some sort because my dad um, is also an engineer. Um, but I also had thoughts of becoming a dancer or an actor because at the time I really enjoyed dancing for some reason. And I still do. I like hanging out with people.
If I wasn't a game developer, I wouldn't be anything special really. I would pay much more attention to my studies and probably would score much better grades. But that's about it. And I don't regret at all being a game developer. I love it.
I was al- I was always enthusiastic about programming, and I also love drawing. So if I weren't a game developer, then I'd probably be doing some sort of programming and doing some art.
First of all, I don't regret that I'm a game developer, but if I wasn't, I'd probably be more interested in stuff like astrophysics and sciences in general because I really find that kind of stuff interesting. That'd be my second goal if I wasn't a game developer and if that was not what I was doing.
If I wasn't a game developer, I would say I would stick around in the art department. Probably, I don't know, for movies or for art for something else. But if art wasn't an option either, I would probably focus more on my studies and pick a field that I enjoy very much.
Yes, I have been studying music for some time now, and there's like basketball and voice acting. So there are some other opportunities I would have had, but developing games was the most interesting one. So that's the path I went down on. Second question is, how has game development changed your life?
So, if I were to answer that question, well, I would say it changed it pretty drastically. Like, I think by learning game development and making games, I was able to unlock my full creative potential and I was able to connect with many awesome people around the world. And I was able to um, release a ton of games, and I'm still doing so. Hopefully, going to release my first indie commercial game this year,
Its name.
Hellgrinder. Stay tuned.
It's an awesome game.
Thank.
Similar to Dan, game development has changed my life drastically too. Before like making games, I was pretty much nobody, but after making games, I'm really popular among my friends, and I'm think I'm kind of more happy with my life now because I think I have a goal in my life now. Before it, I was really depressed. I'm still depressed, but I'm less depressed now, and that's it.
Game development lets me connect with the people. I guess it's the most important thing. And it made it a little more spicy, and I really enjoy it.
I've been absolutely lost for like a whole chunk of my life, and I think game development gives me sort of small goals to work towards. And again, like I agree, game development helps me connect with so many people across the world, and it's just an amazing thing to be part of the game dev community. That's the only reason I needed a purpose, and here it was, and I'm enjoying every single bit of it.
Um, Game development had a very big impact on me, but I wouldn't say it was all for the good because game development, in all honesty, led me to join Discord. And in a bad turn of events, I became a Discord addict, which actually didn't help my procrastination problem at all. And I pretty much wasted my 2021. But I would say I'm really happy to come across game dev, but I need to still manage myself more.
Yes, game development is one of those things that, like, if you get into it, like really into it, that it's like it can actually change your life, like really drastically. And probably if I wouldn't have like started game development, I would actually have nothing to do. But now I have actually something which isn't boring. So I think game development has changed my life for the better. The next question, if you were a professional game developer, what AAA studio would you go work for?
Well, obviously, all AAA studios want you to spend all of your money. Well, but I really enjoy games from Bethesda. One of my favorite titles from them, from id Software, is Doom Eternal. And the reason why is because they provide so much love to their, gaming community. Like, they released a ton of free content along with like tons of DLCs and stuff. And they've been doing that for 2 years straight, and they're still continuing to do that for their game. So, if I were a professional game developer, I would probably want to work in Bethesda.
If I was a professional game developer, I would really want to work at 343 Industries. If you don't know, 343 Industries are the current developers of Halo, and they made games like Halo Infinite and Halo 4 and Halo 5. And what I love about 343 is their connection with their community. They're really connected with their community, and um, they respond really fast with the community, and they like host events and stuff. And I really love that. And I also read reviews of developers working there, and the work environment there seems really nice. Uh, it's it was actually my dream to work at 343 Industries one day. I love to work there.
I never really thought about this before. But I'd probably like to move on by myself. But if go work for a 3A studio, I'd probably decide it then.
I would say if I had a chance to be working at a AAA game studio, I would choose Naughty Dog or Rockstar. Mostly Naughty Dog because I first of all I really love the games. The I played the original Crash Bandicoot, the Uncharted series, and the Last of Us. I love each of them, so I it would be an honor if I get to work there someday.
For me, the go-to AAA studio would be Nintendo. They have released so many classics. They have like the most memorable franchises, and I think it would be an honor to work with them. So, next question. This is for artists. What is your favorite art style to work with?
Can I ask you a question first?
Yes.
What do you mean art style? Like our personal art style or pixel art or traditional art?
In general, what is the go-to art style? Is it like pixel art? And if it's pixel art, is it like close to anime style? Is it close to NES style? Or if it's traditional art?
I really like pixel art styles. Actually, I really like the ones those are 16 by 16 in terms of gaming. They really look pretty good.
I prefer traditional art. I don't know how I would classify what type of traditional art I like. While I'm experimenting with so many styles, and it's gonna take a lot of time before I build my very unique style. So I don't think I can answer that. Dandad, you can continue with your answer.
3D is considered to be art too.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm a 3D artist, and for 3D art style, the V art style, as one might say, the like Wind Waker art style. I really like that art style of that game. I really love the art of that game, and most of my art is like that game's art style. So I think that's my favorite art style.
Hey, and Dan, you aren't actually an artist in this team, but I've seen that you have made some art. So,
When it comes to art, I'm a pea brain. Because like I know there are a ton of art styles out there, and when it like comes to me making art, I like to go with kind of like a freestyle, right? Like I can do both pixel art and traditional art. Um, I don't really have any like rules that I follow, right? But like I know what looks right and what looks good for me, and like I don't really have a favorite like a favorite art style to be honest. Um, so yeah.
hey, for me, it's actually like my favorite art style. I am a 3D modeler and a 2D artist. I prefer the 16-bit art and 8-bit art from the NES and SNES. This is for programmers. When did you start programming, and which coding language do you consider superior to others?
I started when I was about 12 years old, I think. And when I started, it was pretty scary, to be honest. Like, I didn't understand anything because the way I started off wasn't how many would. Like, you would start with the basics, right? But I started off by copying scripts from tutorials, basically. Um, and at the time, I used to follow Unity tutorials. I mean, what led me to start game development was Scratch, and you don't necessarily do programming. You use blocks, right, to do all the logic. Um, so when I switched to Unity, like diving deep into the programming world was something scary at first, but with enough practice and training, I became more confident. And I started with JavaScript, which at the time was supported in Unity. But then later on, it was removed, and I was forced to learn C Sharp. But I don't really regret the decision of learning JavaScript. I think I'm actually glad that I did because I actually ended up also learning some web development as well myself. And I really like the C Sharp programming language. I think it is a great choice for beginners, and I think uh, that it's a pretty popular language in the game development industry.
I first started to code 2 years ago when I was 12 years old, and it was because my brother wanted me to learn programming. And my first programming language was C++, because that's the language my brother recommended to me. And it wasn't the best language for beginners to first learn, but I learned that painfully, and I didn't actually understand much stuff. But then one day I thought to myself, why am I learning programming? Because I can make any stuff like people do with programming, like games or apps or websites. So then I started learning game development, and then then learned that games are made with gaming, which use some other programming languages. And I found Unity, and I learned that Unity uses C Sharp. So then I learned C Sharp, and then I learned game development and C Sharp, which was painful and joyful.
Hello. I started programming around 4 to 5 years ago, and at the time I never really thought about what language to start with or how to start it. And I just started with C Sharp, and I didn't really consider what to do with it. I just wanted to program some way and was really enthusiastic about programming. So I just started doing it, and I think it is the best part. It's the most important part for anyone who is about to start programming, not thinking about how to start, not thinking about which coding language to start with, but the important part is to start programming, I think. And and if you ask which programming language would I advise someone to start with, to a beginner, I'd probably say Python because of its simple syntax, and I guess that's all.
Uh, I'm not a programmer in the team, but I would like to share my experience with it. So in 2019, I believe I was 11. So I knew about the game engines and stuff. I wanted to jump into Unity. So I learned the very basics of C Sharp, and due to my laptop being bad, it crashed multiple times, and I even got as far as to like seventh video of the practice tutorial thing, and my PC just crashed on me. It didn't start for a week. So yeah.
Yeah, I started programming around 10 to 9 years ago. Well, when I say programming, I mean Scratch. Like Scratch is more like a visual scripting tool. And well, like I stayed at Scratch for like a year, and then I moved, or actually tried to move to Unity, but I was so young, and so I didn't understand that I need to learn scripting and programming. So I moved back to Scratch, and like a few months after moving back to Scratch, I tried to learn Unreal Engine, but it didn't go well. After Unreal Engine, I moved to Unity, and that's what I have been doing and learning. Even though I have been using it for that long, it doesn't mean that I'm pro at it or anything. So that was all the questions, and
Uh,
yes.
can I ask another question? Like a surprise question. So, what are your guys' other hobbies besides game dev?
Well, if I were to answer that question, I obviously do sometimes just draw for fun. I mean, you guys seen me draw. I don't think like I can't really make fully fledged arts, but I do like to sketch, to make some concept art. I think that's what I really like doing, is like portraying what I'm envisioning in a simple way. Um, um, and besides drawing, I would say I also um, am interested in other things, um, like gaming, if you would put it in a hobby list, like testing games as well, you know.
Besides game development, I really like to listen to music. Uh, I also like to draw sometimes and watch movies and stuff. I also like to play sports, and sometimes I just like to roam by myself on a rooftop for some reason. I don't know why, but I like it.
That's
That's
an
an interesting
interesting
hobby.
hobby.
Yeah,
Very interesting hobby.
I guess it's kind of like I guess it's a hobby of self-reflection, kind of.
It's mostly because of depression and lack
Oh,
of social skills.
Well, I can relate to that.
I think we can all relate to that.
Yeah, it's really relatable, like with the game developers.
My turn about hobbies. Yeah, I got this question many times before this one, and I couldn't really have an answer to tell. But this time I'm gonna try my best and find something to tell as a hobby. Besides game development, I really do like listen to music and draw in some art, just like Dan and fully rendered said. But besides that, when I think what I do in my spare times, I think I generally try to learn about philosophy and science. That maybe is my hobby. And also I do like cycling.
oh, cycling. It's a pretty seasonal type of hobby. I mean, do you ride in winter? Like, don't get me wrong, I also like cycling, but only during summer, probably. Maybe spring as well and fall, but definitely not in winter.
so we so we still couldn't find a hobby of mine.
Okay, my hobbies would be art. If you're not counting art, it would be speed cubing or chess.
Yeah, like I like to play basketball and like lift weights and play piano and play games, and but like game development is the one which takes a lot of time. Like it takes the most time out of my free time. So uh the second one, like the most prevalent like hobby in addition to game development would be basketball.
That's pretty sick.
Yeah. So this was the first episode of Melancast.
Yeah, thank you all for joining tonight. Thank you for listening to us. And we'll see you guys in the next episode. So stay tuned for that.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.